back on History Today with Bill Cunningham, who's going to talk to us a little bit about May 17th, 1954. Bill. Okay, so can you explain Brown versus Board of Education?
Sure. This was a ruling that overturned Plessy versus Ferguson.
What was that?
And that established, 7 years earlier, right after slavery, separate but equal facilities. So this is a
Facilities as in...
such like education, so schools, restaurants, simple things down to like water bubblers. Everything was separate. But they had to be equal, which means they had to be like the same thing, but they didn't have to associate with each other, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
So this overturned that when parents didn't want they realized their schools in Topeka, Kansas, the black schools were not the same. They were not getting the same educational opportunities as the white people.
Right.
So they came to the court, and it took about 3 years to get there. This happened in 1951, and the court case was ruled in 1954.
They just keep going up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have to go up to obviously go up the courts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they overturned that, and they could no longer be separate. They had to be together, and this took a lot of time to integrate.
That was the ruling of the case.
Yes, 9-0. No people voted against it.
How did both the African Americans and the white people in America deal with this decision?
It was very tough to integrate the schools because the white people did not want this to happen, and the African Americans did. Like, they wanted to integrate. They wanted the same opportunities, and they were not getting that in their schools. So, I mean, I know later, like, many, like, presidents had to use, like, force to help the kids integrate into the schools. Mm-hmm. People did not want this.
They needed some security guards there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It took a while, but, I mean, obviously now they're integrated.
Right.
But it wasn't immediately. It wasn't like the court case happened, and then like a day later they were just there.
Right.
It took a while.
It was a gradual process. Right.
Yeah.
Hi, we're back here on History Today with Bill Cunningham, going to talk to us about October 29th, 1929. Bill? Can you explain to us what happened on that date, 29?
Sure, this was Black Tuesday, the day the stock market crashed. So essentially what happened was people were buying stocks on margin, which means they were buying it with money they did not have. And they would pay it back later. Mm-hmm. But since this was happening, they were inflating the economy with money that did not exist. So the stock market crashed because there was no money actually in it, because people were buying it without using money. And then when this happened, people went and sold their stocks to get their money back, to make sure they didn't lose any money. Mm-hmm. And then they also, because the banks had invested the money in the stock market as well, money that wasn't theirs, people began to take that out, so the banks failed. So the economy was just a mess at this point.
Alright, and Hoover was the president at the time of the stock market crash, mm-hmm. correct? Mm-hmm. And then FDR came in after. Yep. Can you explain their different policies, their different principles?
Sure. Hoover was a rugged individualist. That's what means, like, he didn't want the government to help these people who were struggling in the economy. He wanted people to help other people. So, like, if you have some money, like, help other people, try to just, like, buy things, get the economy back on its feet. Mm-hmm. This did not work because there was no money to buy,
right.
to buy things with. So the economy could not get back on its feet on its own. So when FDR came in, in the first 100 days, he used his New Deal, which is a set of acts that tried to get the economy back on its feet. He was the first president to use deficit spending, which is using money the country didn't have at the time, but unlike where it had happened in the stock market, this actually worked. Mm-hmm. This got the economy back on its feet. He used a national bank holiday to, like, give relief to the banks for a little while. He wanted people to buy things, so then the economy could have more money in it. People keep putting money in the economy so it could get back on its feet.
Right. Didn't he have his 3 R's?
Yes, relief, reform, and recovery. The relief was direct aid to people so they could use that money to buy things. And that also turned into recovery, which was recovering the economy at that time. So that was more... So the relief and recovery were short-term things. Mm-hmm. They were, like, right then and there. And reform was things to make sure this couldn't happen again, such as the banks not spending people's money in the stock market, risking it. So this would be long-term. And a lot of these things are still in place today, like the FDIC, many of those acts.
Right. Can you explain what Americans' lives were like after the crash of 29?
It was terrible. I mean, as I said, like, Hoovervilles, they were there. They actually made fun of Hoover's thing, and they were homeless shelters, basically. Well, not homeless shelters, just homeless camps.
Just people just living in shacks in boxes.
People would line up at the food lines, soup kitchens.
Yep.
It was really a terrible thing. No one had any money.
Right.
And it started to get better with FDR because more people would start to get money, so it was slowly getting better.
With his deals.
And it basically solved ironically, World War II kind of solved it.
Right.
Which is
putting
World War
people
II
back
was
in
a war.
factories, right?
But that wartime economy, which was what hurt us in the beginning, we didn't know how to transition from a wartime economy to a peacetime economy.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back into the war actually stimulated the economy.
Right.
And this was around 1939.
And then World War II, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that ended it. So.
All right. Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
On History Today, we have Dr. T.J. Eckelberg from the University of Wisconsin. Let's bring him on in. How you doing, sir? How you doing?
All right.
Okay. He's going to talk to us about the date that will live in infamy, December 7th, 1941. Can you tell us what happened on that date, December 7th, 1941?
December 7th, 1941 was the day that we lived in infamy. That day, the Japanese military attacked Pearl Harbor, which was a military base in Hawaii. At that time, that was the beginning of World War II. Japan was taking over all the Pacific, took over Manchuria and China, took over Hong Kong, the Koreas, everything. They just wanted to take control of the Pacific and control that area, and then maybe move even farther out, maybe to California. We don't know. So on that date, our military got attacked, our Navy got attacked, and the next day, that's when FDR gave the speech, the date that will live in infamy speech, and saying that how they will never, that will never happen again, that we will go into Japan, we'll try to go into Japan, we will fight against Japan and start World War II, because that they can't do that, they can't just come and kill our people, they can't just attack us like that, so we will go in there and get them.
So there was no doubt in FDR's mind that he should go to war.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. The next day, he gave the war speech. He's like, we are going to war with them.
And did Congress approve of this, or was this just a presidential action?
Congress approved. They were like, we need to go to war. This needs to happen. Yes.
Okay. And was he ready for war before this?
See, that's another question. Yes, he's ready for war because they had one of the strongest militaries in the world. After World War I, they were on top of the world. But also, they weren't really on top of the world yet. They're up there, but they weren't like a world superpower yet. But also, they weren't because they had their fleet in Pearl Harbor all lined up. They had all their ships lined up in a row, so then the Japanese Air Force came in and they just bombed all the ships, so they really weren't ready to go to war with Japan, but at the same time they were.
Okay. Do you think, in your opinion, would the U.S. have gotten involved in World War II if Pearl Harbor never happened?
Yes, I believe that either sooner or later we would have gotten involved, because you can't just look past the things going on in Europe, you can't look past things going on in the Pacific. Both those empires were taken over. The Third Reich was taken over in Europe, and then Japan was taken over in the Pacific. We couldn't look past that. It was going to happen sooner or later. It just happened on that time. You know?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, we're back on History Today with Bill Cunningham, about to talk to us about 9/11. How's it going, Bill? Can you explain to us what happened on the tragic day of 9/11?
Sure. 19 Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 passenger planes. They flew these planes, 2 went to Washington and 2 to New York City. The 2 in New York City, they successfully flew them into the World Trade Centers. About an hour later, they both they both crashed. They're not there anymore. So, and the 2 in Washington, one of them, the passengers actually took out the hijackers and crashed a plane in Pennsylvania. Sadly, they all died, but it did not hit the White House, which was its target. And the other one hit the Pentagon. So that the Pentagon was in bad shape too at the same time, but it was nowhere near New York City. Nowhere near New York City.
Can you talk about the fatalities that happened in New York City?
Sure, about 3,000 people died. Everyone from first responders to people in the buildings. I mean, it was a Monday morning, so there were people in the buildings.
It was business hours.
Business, exactly.
Yeah, things are going to happen.
So when they hit the thing, obviously the people above it died because they had no way to get out because there was a plane through the building, so they couldn't get down. The people below were trying to get down, but as I said, it crashed an hour later, so a lot of people were still in the building.
Everybody was out of the tall building, yep. And
this is the 2 of the tallest buildings in the world. So when they fell, there was people. If you were close to it, you could have died because everything was covered in smoke and ash, and so a lot of first responders also died too because they were trying to get people out of the building, so they were up there when they fell. People didn't know they were going to fall. So after the first one fell, everyone was trying to get out, but they both happened so quickly that people really didn't have a chance to comprehend what was happening, get out. They were just trying to the first responders are trying to get people out.
Can you explain the impact that 9/11 has had on America as
Sure.
Americans as people and America as in general?
Sure. Obviously, George Bush passed the Patriot Act, which allowed for the Homeland Security to have much more extent. Their powers were extended a lot more because we don't want these people coming into our country. So, and also we got into a war with Iraq and Afghanistan because we thought the terrorists were from there. We found out later Iraq actually didn't have these, and luckily we're out of there now.
Yep.
There's still almost a 10-year war. We're getting out of Iraq soon. It should happen soon, but we're still in there. Yeah, so it's still affecting us every day. On History Today, we have Dr. T.J. Eckelberg from the University of Wisconsin here to talk to us about August 6th and 9th, 1945.
How's it going, Bill?
So, explain to us what happened on these two dates.
On August 6th, 1945, the United States dropped the first nuclear bomb ever dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. 3 days later, on August 9th, we dropped a second bomb on Nagasaki, Japan, thus ending the World War II. So, yeah.
Okay. How much did Truman know about the Manhattan Project?
He knew about it because he was the one who authorized the drop, but a lot of people were kept in the dark about it. They don't want it getting out. It was just for a small group of people, no more than 50 people. Just a lot of scientists. Like Albert Einstein was part of that group too, but he kind of regrets that now. But yeah.
Okay, so do you think these two dates, did they change modern warfare forever?
Definitely, it's the basis for everything going on right now. Like nuclear weapons are on top of they're number one in controversy with international relations. Everything is based around that. A lot of countries are gaining nuclear weapons, like Iran and maybe Syria is trying to get them, and North Korea. And we don't want them to get them because might be not good in their hands. But yeah, it's a big topic.
So do you think it was a good decision to drop the bombs?
Yeah, I believe it was a good decision. It ended the war, but that wasn't really the main reason why we did it. We were already winning World War II. We were gonna go in there. We would have cost around 500,000 American lives if we went into Japan. But I really believe we dropped the bombs to show Russia that we mean business because they got to Berlin first and they got Hitler, and after World War II ended, the Cold War started. So it was we had to drop those bombs to show them that we mean business and that we will drop nuclear bombs on them, and so there was an arms race after that and trying to see who could have the most nuclear weapons. And I mean, we came out on top, but now it's getting back into it. So I mean, we'll have to see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.